Welcome to Political Alchemy. Today we're going to be talking about the Electoral College, something that is causing a lot of dissension, a lot of conversation, and a lot of confusion. So let's first of all just open things up. What do you guys think about where we are today to what the Founding Fathers really believed this should be when it was 13 states, 4 million people, and basically all the states were the same size? Jonathan.
Well, I think it's time to take a look at new changes in the Electoral College system. I think when you look at the last several election cycles, you saw something in 2000 and 2016 where one presidential candidate overwhelmingly won the popular vote. And what do we teach people? The person with the most votes wins. That's democracy. And to make them do this formula that really doesn't talk about what people are actually voting for just leads to further disenfranchisement. And so I'm very proud that we have actually one of our own Bernie Sanders national delegates, Michael Baca, working on something called the Hamilton Electors, looking back to our founding fathers, looking back to what Hamilton was saying in the Federalist 68, saying, look, when you've got a presidential candidate that has had this level of interference from foreign entities, that has made this many missteps, this is why we have an electoral college, and we should be finding new ways to have our electoral college elect someone new. And our own Colorado Secretary of State is saying, nope, you are a elector for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has chosen Hillary Clinton. You can't change your vote. And we have other secretaries of states in other states saying the exact opposite, saying, no, you are an elector for the Republican Party. You must vote for Donald Trump. We've already moved away from the purpose of the Electoral College. This was meant as a bulwark against tyrants that were perceived as popular with foreign interference. Mm-hmm. If we can't take advantage of this now, I think it's time to scrap the entire system.
But also the interference is happening from within. So let's forget all of the political oopses that happened. Okay, so let's forget about the hacking and Comey and all the rest of it. I crunched some numbers at home. Basically, New Hampshire has 1.327 million people in it. California has 38.8 million people in it, which basically means California is 29 times bigger population-wise than New Hampshire. New Hampshire has 4 votes. California has 55 votes. If you actually do the comparisons for each vote to weigh the same, California would actually need to have 116 Electoral College votes, not the 55 that it has. This got me really curious, so I started to look into it. If you take Wyoming, oh my goodness, now things are really skewed to the limit. Because in Wyoming, you've got 582,000 people with 3 votes. What this means is that if you live in Wyoming, your vote is worth, let me make sure I get this right, your vote is worth twice what it is in New Hampshire and 4 times what it is in California. There's something really fundamentally wrong with this. So
right, we didn't have California either as a state or in any sense of it when the country was first founded.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the founders were really intelligent when they created a House and a Senate where they said, okay, look, every state, we need to make sure states have a voice as a state. I think that Colorado, if we didn't have an electoral college, we wouldn't have gotten the attention we got this year. Mm-hmm. But there's also a basic sense of fairness, and that is that you have one person, one vote. That's why we do redistricting every 10 years, is because you want to give the correct number of power to the correct districts. This one person, one vote concept is far more important. I'd love to see another compromise. I don't know what that looks like, but absent that, if I was given the choice between having an electoral college or not having one today, I think it's time to scrap it and go back to that one person, one vote mentality.
Someone, sorry, hold on, just 1 second, Lynette. Someone actually worked out that originally it used to be all done by the congressional districts. It was all based on that. There was no such thing as winner take all, which to me is ludicrous. to start with, but that's beside the point. But if it had gone back to the original concepts of basing this on congressional districts, Hillary would actually have won by 1 vote.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, I have not checked these maths. I don't know whether they're accurate or not. But I've got no reason to believe that this person that I found really seemed to know what he was talking about and had crunched all the maths just to see what had happened.
But if it was based on popular vote, she did win a popular vote by over 2.8 million now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But of course, this was to stop, was it small states not having a voice or something? But now the small states have actually got the loudest voice. The whole thing's done a 180.
Yeah.
So Lynette, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, what happens if the Hamilton electors do in fact have enough electors that vote against Donald Trump or throw the election? What happens then? I don't know.
Well, it depends. I mean, there's 2 potential outcomes, and you know, I know this is recorded, and so we're sort of on the eve of this right now. This is coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
This is something that anyone can view at the state capitol on Monday, the 19th of December. There are 2 possibilities. One is if Trump doesn't get the required 270, but no one gets the required 270, which is an unlikely outcome, but maybe the most likely of all the unlikely outcomes. If that happens, then it gets kicked to the U.S. House. And so we might end up with a President Paul Ryan, we might end up with a President Pence, we might end up with a President Trump as things are right now. You know, the least likely of all the unlikely outcomes is that the Hamilton electors work to actually find a consensus candidate, whether that's a Mitt Romney, whether that's a Governor Kasich, whether that's somebody else that basically everybody can agree on. But that is a much larger hump to overcome, because not only do you have to convince 37 Republican electors, but you also have to convince difference of Clinton electors, and also convince them that some of them won't go to jail, which our own Secretary of State has certainly made those, intimated that is a distinct possibility in the state of Colorado.
And then once they vote, do they just get that 1 vote, or do they get to vote again to get some consensus? That's it.
That's a good question. I think it's really, you know, it's 1 vote, 1 shot. The electoral form that's being presented to Colorado electors right now lists 1 name, Hillary Clinton. That's it. And you know, it's one of those things where even our own Colorado Secretary of State is sort of interpreting what our founding fathers were putting forth over 250 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem to me, Jonathan, what you were saying at the very beginning, that the Electoral College was put in a certain sense, as being a safeguard. This is
not originally.
Well, they were
Not originally.
They were able to vote. However, actually, you only voted for the elector, and the elector then would make his best choice and decision.
Let a Brit teach an American a little bit of history.
Okay.
Because I really did quite a bit of research on this,
Okay.
and it's absolutely fascinating.
Okay.
No. Originally, and for the first 4 presidents, no person actually voted at all. The founders, what they were looking for was that each governor would put into the Electoral College role people that truly understood politics, hopefully were semi-non-political, because back then there were no parties. It was very much a free-for-all for everybody. Okay? So someone of great common sense. To start with, it was just the Electoral College votes that chose the president and the vice president originally. And this, as I said, this only ran for 4 elections. And the rule was they voted for 2 people. The first person they voted for was anybody they wished. But what the founders were worried about was a son of the state. The second person they voted for had to be not from their state. Then all of these votes went up to Washington, and they went through it, and typically what happened was the second name written won the presidency, and the other name, the name that came up the most, became vice president.
Wow.
That's how it originally happened. Then in the beginning of the 18th century, they changed it. But again, not democratically changed it. What they then said was, okay, Mr. Governors, why don't you choose who can vote in your state? So the governor used to choose the landowners and the big business owners. That was it. No one else could vote, just those people within their state. And then it went through a third iteration when the 19th Amendment cut in. I mean, it's a fascinating history of this. People say, well, we should, we can't get rid of it. It's worked so well. No, they kept changing it when it didn't work.
Right.
It's absolutely fascinating, this. And of course, as a Brit, I find it even more fascinating.
Well, part of the thing, too, is there are so many myths and so many misinformation, things that people don't even understand, don't even have an appreciation of. And yet we're making decisions, choices, and fighting about it. Fighting about stuff that is not even true. Not even true, because I am on this side and they are on that side. And rather than trying to say what will work best for us all, and it's not always going to be perfect for myself, and it's not always going to be perfect for somebody else, but what will work the best for all of us? And we've really lost that. And the party systems have really taken a hit on that idea of, and what happens is you have one side does some kind of a preemptory strike of some sort or another, and the other side has to respond in some way. And if they don't respond, they put themselves many times into a defeated position, and they can't allow that to occur. Rather than, and there's just a certain lack of caring.
Yes.
Caring for the country.
So, does anyone have any final words on this?
I think the only other thing I would say real quickly is, the idea of a national popular vote is actually really popular. But it's become less popular since Trump was elected. More Republicans oppose the idea of a national popular vote today than they did even 6 months ago. And so that's something to be aware of. There's also a movement at the state legislature right now to consider moving into a national popular vote movement that would only be triggered when we hit 270 electoral votes. As states agree to go on this, they would pledge their electoral college votes in an evolution, kind of like what we've talked about, to not the winner of their state, but to the person who got the most popular votes nationally. And so we're at 160 right now, 160 electoral votes. Enough states have signed on. So obviously we're a little short right now, and about 90 short. 9 of those 90 may come from Colorado if there's a bill introduced this year, but that's a longer conversation for probably another time.
And of course, I think it's worth just quickly reiterating this. Many states do not allow their Electoral College voters to change what they have been deemed to vote for, and if they do, in certain states, fined, go to prison, thrown out of the job, etc., etc.
Yep. No, including Colorado. You could be struck with a criminal record. So.
Right. So basically, the whole concept has been just totally thrown away.
Yeah.
And we're left with this mess. Is that a fair description?
Pretty fair.
Pretty fair?
Yeah.
I think we've covered it. Thank you.